Good morning, everybody. My name is Matias. I am a core developer on the Angular team, and I work at Google in the Mountain View campus. I am going to open up the keynote today. I'm very happy to be here, very happy to be at ngPoland. It's my first time in Warsaw. I've been to Krakow before, so not the first time in Poland. And me and my colleague Rado are going to show you the Angular journey from today and tomorrow, and all the ins and outs of what Angular means in the open source community and what it means internally at Google. For the first half of this keynote, I'm going to talk about the Angular community, the ecosystem, what Angular 7 is. I'll give some hints and clues as to what's coming down the road. Then Rado's going to take over, and he's going to talk about all the amazing new things that are coming into the framework with Angular Ivy. So, we are all here to learn about Angular. This is a framework that is designed to build sophisticated web applications. Everything that we learn here, we'll take home, we'll take to our jobs, and we'll create and build wonderful experiences on top of what we have. I've been on the core team for over 5 years. Back in the summer of 2012, I was building a website and I had to choose a JavaScript library. And back then, jQuery was really popular. I was really into something called MooTools. And for the website that I was building, it was such a big website that I had to choose the JavaScript library. And back then, there's Ember and Angular and other JavaScript libraries. But I kind of made the right choice about choosing Angular at the time, because what I was looking for was a framework that had really good testing, very good declarative code, and was very modular. And that's basically what the Angular philosophy is. And being involved on the team since the beginning, this philosophy has stayed true. And I'm happy to say that with Angular 7 and Angular 8, it's even stronger than ever. What this boils down to is stability. The framework is very stable, both technologically and in its position in the community. We have a new version that comes out every 6 months. And when a new version is released, it doesn't break the old version. It just adds to the API and keeps everything stable in check. If we have any breaking changes, we report them early on. We try our best not to have any. And when we deprecate things, we give users of Angular 1 year to upgrade their code. All of the versioning is semantic versioned, and the next version you'll see in 2019 will be 8.0. Or sorry, yeah. Okay, so key points on stability. As I mentioned, stability is a really important piece in the Angular codebase. With the new versions that we release, all the code is consistent from version to version. The API stays the same. This means if you're a big company and you have to upgrade your front-end code base to a new version of Angular, you can rest assured that the next version of Angular will be compatible. And for any older code that is stuck on an older version of Angular, we still offer long-term support. This means critical patches and security fixes will be patched into older versions of Angular when needed. Ultimately, the way that we do things at Google is if we release a new version of Angular, and we have to know that the old version is still compatible, we have close to 1,000 applications within Google that will tell us immediately if things fail. So if I decide to change the metadata for @component, and somehow I get away with it without my team coming after me, all the tests inside Google will still fail, and I won't be able to continue. So Angular inside Google is a very powerful force, and of course, it's a very powerful force in the community. Finally, when you use Angular 7 or Angular 6, you know that each of the individual tools, such as animations, HTTP, protractor, Angular elements, they're all consistently updated to the same version. This way you don't have to figure out which version is compatible with which. You know that Angular 7's animations will be compatible with Angular Core, which will be compatible with schematics and so on. So the stability of the framework is really important because once things are stable and the foundation is in place, it allows for a lot of growth. Taking a look at the Stack Overflow server results, we found that Angular is close to the top of one of the most discussed items on the website. And close to Node.js. A lot of new startups are choosing Angular as their technology of choice for the front end. And a close second comes to Ruby on Rails, which is not a front-end framework, but back-end. But we've been keeping track of this on the Angular.io website. And we found that in the past 6 months, we've seen a 40% increase in viewership on the website. People looking at guides, at docs, at examples, and figuring out how to best build their Angular applications by visiting Angular.io. Now, for the volume of people visiting the website, you might be wondering, wow, how does a website like that, what kind of tricks does it do? Well, that's kind of beyond the scope of this keynote, but if you are interested in one of the things that we do on Angular.io, they're PWAs. And Simona's going to have a talk later today, and she'll go over the ins and outs of progressive web apps and what they mean for Angular. All right, so we have growth, we have stability, the framework's been around. What about the ecosystem? Because there's only so much the core team can do, and it's really the integration of tools and plugins and services that build on top of Angular. Well, all kinds of different tools, such as WebStorm, NPM, that have hooks into Angular, different kinds of tools for tracking performance and speed. Really, it's a whole community of different tools built by different people that add to the Angular experience. But then, what's more important than the ecosystem is the actual people behind all of the wonderful things that are in the Angular community. We have GDs, we have conferences all over the world, we have meetups, things such as NG Girls, and tons of people, tons of remarkable, wonderful people who all contribute to Angular. But at the end of the day, it's about the community and it's about bringing people on board, and everybody and anybody is welcome to join the community, to be a part of it. If you have something to share, you have something to add to the Angular ecosystem, your ideas are welcome. If there's a conference nearby you and you want to speak, that could be a great opportunity to get more involved in the Angular community. Everyone here is welcome. And ultimately, that brings us from Angular in the ecosystem and the growth to today. Right now, we are in Angular 7.x. What does this mean? Well, we've done a few upgrades. The CLI is able to now do addition and updating of dependencies automatically. We have some updates in the material and CDK territory. And of course, the documentation has been vastly improved across the Angular framework. So let's imagine that you would like to upgrade your Angular application to 7.x. And let's say that you have a bunch of different dependencies, such as Material and RxJS or Angular Fire. Running ng update, if these tools support it, and the ones that I mentioned do, it will automatically go into your code base, refactor it, update the dependencies, and update your NPM packages to include these new updates. And for anything that you need to add to your application, a new command called ng-add will automatically download it from the code base and put it into your application into its own directory. And for any package, whether it's inside of the Angular code base or a part of the ecosystem or just a third-party package entirely, it is supported. And like I mentioned, many projects already do this for us. Another update we've added is drag and drop and virtual scrolling. These are available in the Angular Material codebase. And if you upgrade your Angular Material application now, it will automatically upgrade to Angular Material 2.0. So you see a nice, skinned, new, fresh-looking website just by updating your application. If you're interested in learning more about the CLI and the code that works beneath it to do all these updating tasks in command, have a look at Christoph and David's talks, which are later today. So one major thing I wanted to talk about, which has been talked about before at Angular conferences various times, is Angular Labs. The idea here is that if there's a new feature in Angular that we would like the public, the ecosystem to test out, we have now a platform for doing this using Angular Labs. And the actual term Angular Labs has been around for a while, but what we're very close to launching right now is this idea of having a separate import for Labs features. This means that if the router were to introduce something new, or animations, or even some new layer to work with RxJS, it could be a part of Angular Labs. So here's an example. This is what I've been working on. In the code example, you'll see that I'm importing a special animation feature, Animation Labs. It's a pipe that will be able to animate styling in classes automatically for you. This will go into Labs, and then it can be included into an Angular application and just used. And then for the community to give us feedback, to tell us, okay, maybe this doesn't work, or maybe it does work, we can get that feedback instantly and make changes before it's released as a stable API. So let's take a look at a demo that I have here. So here I just have a bunch of icons that I click, and this is just changing styles, but it's using that animation pipe, which I've imported from Angular Labs. So I take a look at the code here. I can see that I have a bunch of CSS classes that I'm changing. So this is kind of like a lamp that you press multiple times, and each time you press it, it changes shape and size. These are separate CSS classes that are getting added to the element. But what we've done here is we've used this new Angular Labs animation pipe, and it's able to take in all the styling and all the classes and automatically animate these for you. Another example of this is this automatic height collapsing. This right here, all that we're doing is we're setting the height right here, and then we're just animating the difference. So going forward, we'll start to see a lot more of these very low-level animation APIs be available in Labs, and low-level APIs in core be available with these new refactorings that we're doing with Angular Labs. And of course, with that being said, I'd like to welcome Rado on stage, and he's going to talk to you guys about the ins and outs of Angular at Google and all the new cool stuff we're doing with Angular inside the framework.